So next up, I'm going to introduce Suzi Hyden, who I've had the pleasure of working with a couple times. So I'm super excited for her presentation. So Suzi Hyden is a cyanotype artist whose work celebrates the environment by combining elements from nature and repurposed materials. She uses native wildflowers and other objects found in nature to create cyanotypes, an alternative photographic process which is also known as sun printing or blueprinting. In addition, Suzi shows her love for nature by repurposing materials for her art. She often uses vintage fabrics, papers, and metal as the substrates and framing for her cyanotypes.
I am a cyanotype artist whose work celebrates the environment by combining elements from nature and repurposed materials. I use objects that I find in nature to create my cyanotypes, which are also known as sunprints or blueprints. Cyanotype, an early photographic technique from 1842, was used by astronomer John Herschel to copy his notes. Architects and engineers later adopted it for blueprints. This process is eco-friendly, needing only sunlight and water. It is a contact printing process where objects are placed on material coated with cyanotype chemistry, which is light-sensitive iron salts. The objects block the sunlight, keeping those areas white, while the exposed parts turn blue after being washed in the water. I follow the path of botanist Anna Atkins, who used cyanotype to document seaweed in 1843. Her self-published book, Photographs of British Algae, was the first book with photographs included. The plants growing on my property are my oldest companions, and Mother Nature has always been my muse. My content celebrates the riches of nature, and cyanotype, which relies on sunshine and water, are the perfect medium match. I observe the lines, shapes, and patterns in native plants, collecting and pressing them to create my compositions. On the left are freshly foraged Dutchman's breeches, and on the right is the same bloom after pressing. My artwork is produced in partnership with nature. Notice the transparency of this pressed mayapple blossom. It acts much like a photographic negative, allowing light to pass through it to create a photograph. This is a wet cyanotype, which incorporates vinegar and soap suds on a vintage table runner. Using vintage linens allows me to celebrate the handiwork of yesterday's craftswomen while giving new life to old goods. This is a traditional cyanotype of the blossoms of the catalpa tree. Do you see the faces of the women embroidered into the lace of this vintage doily? I imagine these are the matriarchs of the family catalpa. This hanky originally had a solid yellow center and was trimmed in a trio of springtime garden flowers. I applied the cyanotype chemistry only over the center and contact printed one of my favorite springtime native plants, the bloodroot. I am often drawn to the back side of cyanotypes on fabric. In this triptych, the outer images show the back side. Placing the embroidered side face down during exposure keeps the original handiwork visible and creates a ghostly effect. People often ask if cyanotype comes in any other colors than blue. The answer is yes, with additional chemistry. Soda ash can turn the Prussian blue to yellow. The ombre effect is achieved by partially dripping the hanky into the toner. example of a series I call my paper quilts, and this is my most complex one yet. It is a toned, multiple exposure of grass seed heads. To make it even more complex, I drew onto the final print and then glued grass onto it. My current series incorporates rust dyeing onto vintage clothing. I soak the fabric in a mixture of vinegar and water and wrap it around a rusty object. Within a few days, depending on how warm it is, the vinegar reacts with the iron and transfers the rust onto the cloth. My most recent series is called Sisters, and it is inspired by females who have preceded me. Each vintage gown represents a timeless woman with her distinct attitude, character, and past. Recently, I conducted a workshop for individuals with developmental disabilities. There were separate sessions for children and adults, demonstrating that cyanotype is a process that almost anyone can enjoy. Family members or staff from the Developmental Disabilities Center were there to assist the participants as needed, ensuring a supportive environment and lots of positive social interactions. Workshop participants enjoyed using vintage lace, wood cutouts, feathers, and plants to create cyanotypes on paper and on fabric, producing wall hangings, t-shirts, tote bags, and framed pieces to display their cyanotype skills. I will conclude with an exciting announcement. The Ohio Arts Council has selected me as one of 25 teaching artists to participate in building bridges to sustained communities, bringing art-making experiences to older adults and small Ohio communities. This fall, I will conduct an 8-session workshop series called Sun Printing Stories, a cyanotype journey for older adults at the Champaign County Library. Please see me after the presentation to find out more about this workshop opportunity. Thank you so much for your attention.
Bravo, bravo.